Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our April 20th, 2023 budget meeting. 9:30, and the purpose of this meeting is to hopefully finish up our budget deliberations for the 2023 budget. So at that, I'll call the meeting to order. Remind council of declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. And the business today is we're going to start off with Lionel as far as the additional information that was requested at the last meeting and see where we're at with that. And then the remaining items, what I have wrote down here is the sewer capital and water. We haven't talked about that yet. And any remaining items are to finalize some of the things that we were talking about at the end of the last meeting. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lionel and let him go over the information that we requested last time.
Okay, through you there. Thank you. And in the updated additional information report that everyone received, you'll notice that the two charts of the changes made passed by council have been updated. The changes that had occurred previous to the last meeting, I've sort of grayed out so you can tell where we had left off. So on page, pages 2 and 3, you see the change made prior to the last meeting, and then the item 8 is where the changes start that hadn't been made yet and you haven't seen in report form. So there's quite a few changes that had been made at the last meeting. And in the background section on page 1, there's a little bit of a summary on the effects of these changes to the capital budget. So as you can see in the bulleted section on page 1 of the report, there's some significant savings in terms of draws from the reserve. So for instance, in the admin reserve, draws were decreased by 470,000. So that means that a lot of things being equal, the balance of the admin reserve would be $470,000 higher than it would have been otherwise. And same thing for, say, for instance, reserve equipment roads due to the changes passed by council in terms of projects being deferred, deleted, whatever the case may be. The reserve at the end of 2013 will be $415,000 higher. We did have one project that was picked up for reserve roads, so that would be $30,000 lower reserve, but for the most part, there was quite a large amount of money that was saved from reserves, which is never a bad thing. And in terms of the admin reserve, the total amount coming from the admin reserve, which this will be the last year that it includes the OMPF money, but total reserves coming from the admin reserve is $1.25 million now after the change is made. And if we go on to the second chart in the report, which starts on page 6. Again, the stated amount of what was presented in the first changes report. So rows 20 through 21 were just additional changes, presentation and so forth that were made at the last meeting. So that's a summary of the, I would say, significant changes that have been made by council during the first few budget meetings.
What page are you on there, Lionel?
Well, that's when I'm done, but the ones where we were talking about the presentation changes, so not changes to the actual numbers, that was on page 6 through 9. So there's 22 changes there. And the changes to the net tax levy and capital budgets that could potentially change the tax rate the chart starts on page 2 and goes to page 5. And so just to reiterate, the changes made have dropped the residential tax rate increase to 3.9%. For those who are interested in that tax levy, that's down to 4.2.
So on that line, on the original budget binder, you had 4.5, was that the levy or the rate increase?
Future levy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
So number 16 there, Lionel, deletion of the digital seed sign, is that taking the sign right out of there then, or is?
Future, I believe, during the meeting, we told Peter that we were taking it out for now, that we may be looking at it later in terms of being funded from some other source.
Okay.
So that's my understanding.
Yeah, and I keep looking back at the money that we received from the OPP. I think that we used it one time as a, like, whatever return, we used it for that type of thing, because it's kind of a policing thing or a safety thing. So I don't know if there's money in that, what's it, reconciliation money or whatever, I'm not sure if that's where we got it from, or what I remember it was like when we get the criminal record check money and all that stuff, when people go for criminal record checks, that money that comes back to us. I don't know if there's enough there to pay for that, that's the problem.
Future, this goes hand in hand with the council wish to kind of split out all these monies that they take off our bill, these miscellaneous funds. I can go through each of the monthly bills that we get from, they call it OPS now, their billing arm. And so instead of, say for instance, the original bill was going to be 1.1 million and we got $5,000 netted in there, I can actually take out the revenue that they've kind of netted the bill for, take it out and shove it into a new account so that we know what we have.
Sure, okay,
So that way we could just take that money.
okay,
Yeah, so we could identify that in the police reserve, and if council so wished, we could take money out of that to use for this.
okay, all right, good. Yeah, we're down to one, that's all, it's and then, you know, we've seen the benefits in the past from those. The question on Lionel's report. Okay. Great, thank you, Lionel. The remaining items, you know, there was discussion around different parts of the budget. So if anything there that you want to speak to, now would be the time. We are going to go into page 158, Stewart Capital, and let's review it. And then I have a note here for the paving of the 6th line. Peter had sent a thing with the option 1 and option 2 for paving, and maybe from what I've seen, I don't, do we have that? We had that thing this morning, I seen an email. I just wonder if option 2 was just to pave either side of the pay scale. Significant cheaper, it was like 16,000.
the quotes are at the end of this package,
I think they just came in last night. Peter got them and I don't know where I'd seen them.
They're on the email.
Did that go to all of us? Or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, we need.
So.
You know,
With the
quotation.
Well, yeah. There's a way of getting that. We need to get that up so people can see the 2 different options there. But we can start off right now in the sewer. So we might go to page 158 and we can review that and then fill up time before we get to those numbers. Peter. So page 158 on the sewer capital, we did talk about this at the beginning, when we started the discussion just way back, but it's so a lot of the things in the sewer capital are things that have to be done this year. So there was the wastewater treatment plant roof replacement, capital maintenance program, the wastewater cell expansion. But most of the stuff we did deal with, but is there any questions around that? I had 65,000 wrote down here for something, and I wish I had put a note with it because I don't know why I wrote that.
Curious, any of those on 158 last year?
Pump station generator basement. I guess we're going to think.
Oh, okay. But sorry, Jerry. Go ahead.
I said on page 158.
Yeah,
Those first column there says amounts. Are any of those amounts from previous year's budget? Was there anything reserved before?
Through Chair, speaking for Peter, is Peter?
no,
Okay. So the wastewater treatment plant roof replacement was budgeted in prior years for 50.
Okay.
The cell expansion, there was 15,983 budgeted, and of course that increased in 2023. And the George Street sanitary sewer replacement was budgeted in prior years as well for $350,000.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Ontario Water, but that's our contract amount right here.
Future, yes, that's correct.
And it's fixed for then.
Yes.
And the 350 for George Street, is that, I hate to say this, is that going to be enough?
We're saying the same thing. Is it enough?
it's probably for the first phase, I would suspect. Yeah, it's it wouldn't do the whole 48, but looking at the way it's going, it should be good for this year. I'd say it. Nice to have Peter.
Yeah, at this point, we're just at the engineering phase, so it should be okay.
Okay.
Well, you had the 65,000.
Yeah.
I've got that pumping station generator circled here, so I don't know if that was when Amber was here.
The one we split 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I think that's why it was.
they got 17.75, so maybe that's the three payments into.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. It was wished by council that we defer that over a few years.
Okay, so that's in there though, the 17 or whatever for this year.
It is changed on my spreadsheet and you'll have a nice fresh book, but that 65 is spread over the 3 years, so. Yeah.
But it's not on the sheet, is it on the sheet here, Lionel, or no? The new sheets,
The new sheets from,
like these ones here.
On the last.
yeah, it should be on the last summary, but that's back here. Yeah, so find item 7 on the first chart. Looks like 159.
Isn't it? Yeah, 21, yeah. Thank you, Lionel.
I'll double check the numbers here. Yeah, it's 21,667 per year. I don't know why that says 19,007, but I just double checked, and 65 divided by 3 is 21,666, which is the number quoted in the first column.
Right then. Yeah. Is there any other questions around the sewer capital or, like I said, I think we covered a lot of it when Amber was here, but we'll do it again. So want to make sure everything's up on, so we understand it. So Okay, so the next, page, should we talk about waste, the waste capital? So I'm jumping right over to page 162, but 161, I don't have any, oh, yeah, I do have some check marks on it, so. The waste capital budget portion on page 160. That was the dividends and, well, that's the asphalt part, so. With the, part that we need to see that. Quote that came in.
Right, I can't get it on my email here, but I can get it in my office, so just give me a moment. I'll get that.
Yeah, if we can even get a copy.
Yep, I'll distribute it.
That would help.
Do you need a motion on page 58?
I think you can do it at the end. I think, if you didn't change anything, the money's already, we've already done it, but
Okay.
yeah, it's already been moved. We must have done that already at the last. Meeting. So, when it comes to the asphalt over there, Lionel, you said something about the environment, wherever the money was gonna come from, it was short anyways, wasn't it?
Yeah, through this year, I did an updated projection for the environmental reserve, which is another one of the reserves that has two names, so it's the waste reserve, and this is all gonna be cleaned up this year, as we've talked about, but the 6-line asphalt was a later addition, and there was another project in 2022 that wasn't approved within the budget time frame. And it's was done through council resolution after the budget, so taking a fresh look at that and fresh look at the overages and such from the 2021 year end. We're not going to be able to support that in the environmental reserve, so if we're going to go ahead, we'll have to find another reserve to fund that from.
So Bob's getting the paperwork there and Peter's gonna be coming online, but the two options there, I think realistically, the second option that he had was to do just either side of the weigh scale. And I think it goes back to some of the discussion that we had, and I think it was Councilor Doherty had mentioned, like, you know, with the blue box, blue pins and all that stuff. Things changing, it might make more sense to just do option 2, just clean up either side of the weigh scale. Put a surface treatment there or whatever it is he's got here. And then in case there's any adjustments need to be made over this year, we can always finish it once everything's finalized in there and we know everything's gonna work, because, you know, we've all seen as much as things look good on paper, once you start doing it, there could be some issues, and if we go and pave it and then have to dig it up, that would be the worst option. So it does need to have some sort of you know, a landing on each side that's not, that'll help tracking all the gravel and stuff onto the weigh scale. So, and it wouldn't take anything to tie in afterwards, so. Peter on this, maybe you can come on and explain this to us. Okay. Hello, Peter.
Yes, good morning, Mayor Martin and members of council. Sorry for the late entry. Yes, option 2 would be very suitable for the scales. Definitely would help with the gravel and the snow and the slush year round to keep the scales bare as possible to keep the correct weights as the residents go across and back and forth. So option 2 is a great option if that could be fitted into the budget for this year.
And where would that come from then, Lionel, like that 16,000?
Through you, Chair, there is a general capital reserve that has not been utilized much in this budget, so I maybe suggest that.
All right, What's council's thoughts?
One question. Peter, so you're just gonna pave around the thing that weighs the trucks? So what about the paving and the 6-line paving? Is that gonna be deferred till next year?
Through you, Mayor Martin. So this year, this is just to, the approaches to the scale. Councillor Flagger, it's nothing to do with the 6-line, the road. This is just for the scale. The 6-line, surface treatment, the overlay is from 48 up to Preston Road. It's a different capital item.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions around that? What's council's thoughts of option 2 here and Lionel, what reserve was that you said?
Through you, Chair, the general capital reserve. End of 2023, it looks like we have a balance of about 730,000. So perhaps there.
So that would be a motion that we go with option 2 and use the reserve that Lionel had suggested there. For the weight scale at the transfer station paving on either side of them.
Just the weight scale.
Yeah. If somebody wanted to make that motion.
I'll make it. I agree with Peter, that's his recommendation. Yes, I'll make a motion to pass that.
All right, so moved by Councillor Clement that we go with option 2 and use the reserve that Lionel had suggested.
General capital.
General capital. So, thank you. Hey, do I have a seconder for that? I'll get a seconder and then we'll go if there is a seconder, if not. Okay, by Mayor Webb. Okay, questions or comments by Terry?
No, I want to deal with the 6-line when we're done this one. That way I just didn't want Peter to.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion? That's fair. All right, then. And that, yep, for the capital, so it's 6 lines coming back into it here as far as the surface treatment. So we can do that now before we move on to the next part of this if you want. Then go ahead.
Through you, it's clarification that the 48 to Preston Road is going to be an overlay and a similar product that the Round Lake Road previous to the existing is what we're going to do. And the expectation is it's going to be 5 to 7 year life on that particular item. Is that right, Peter?
Peter?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, to Councillor Doherty. The overlay is to extend the life of the original surface treatment that's already in place on the 6-line. It's standard. Most municipalities to get their life expectancy out of the original double layer surface treatment, normally within the 5 or 7 years, depending on the condition of the original surface treatment. It's pretty standard to put an overlay on top of it to extend and get the more life, as much life as we can out of the original surface treatment.
So so the 2 different terms are surface treatment is the stone and tar and tip, let's call it tar and tip, and the micro surface is the stuff that we used in the last couple of years on Round Lake Road. So go ahead, Councillor.
To follow up with that is, so then I'm assuming, Peter, that the existing road conditions will warrant the overlay being done, because that's what I heard the problem was on Round Lake Road. We didn't have adequate road underneath it. Am I reading that right, or am I just simply off base on a Thursday?
Through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, definitely correct. The surface treatment on the 6-line is still in good condition, and this would definitely help to prolong the life of the 6-line. The Round Lake Road, the surface treatment didn't hold up and didn't last to its complete life expectancy, and needed to be replaced. So, and then we changed with the higher volume, we did change and go to the ultra thin asphalt on that road. So I don't know if I'm explaining that clear enough.
Well, that's fine. Mr. Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to know we aren't getting back into the same situation we had around Lake Road and we're going to be redoing it in 2 or 3 years. It quite frankly doesn't make any sense. We might as well do half it and do it the ultra thin as opposed to it. So it's just a question. If you're happy with the underlay, get 5, 6, 7 years. But if it's another Round Lake Road experiment, I guess I would have different views on it.
So Peter, so we started this program a few years ago and then we went away from it about doing, like coming back after, 5 years or whatever and doing an overlay to try and get the length out on the surface. I think I've said it before, and I think before next budget, we do need to have, maybe we can get that guy in to give us the explanation on the different surface treatments that we had one other time. I know we've had him at the county, but I'd like to see him come here and explain, the pros and cons, because one of the things that does come into it for the future is if we're going to do the micro surface on high volume roads, and 6 line would fit right into that. We need, we need to understand the different ways of doing road surfaces, and one of the things that comes into it when you do start to figure into this one, looking back, we probably would have done the micro surface on it, because what they're saying is when you do a double surface treatment and then you come back in 5 years and do an overlay, it gets really close to the same cost as the micro surface right off the get-go. But that being said, with your road needs study and the 6 line, we did it about 8 years ago or whatever. It probably wouldn't be resurfaced for another few years here now. So this is going to give us the time to get a program in place that we start doing it right the first time. Am I right?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. I don't have the roads need study right in front of me, but it is down the list a little bit. So this was to, to extend the life. The purpose of this was to extend the life of what is existing, to get us to the, to the full extent of the 6 line. But like you said, it is a higher volume road, and I think the ultra thin asphalt, that would be a great place for it. But it is up to council on how we proceed. But I do like the ultra thin asphalt, and so far the roads it's been on, it is a great product. So, but this capital item was just to extend the life of what we had in place already. So, if that explains it a little bit.
So you're figuring, you're hoping, I know anything can happen, but the 7 years or so, that'll get us out 6 to 7 years on there.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, I would hope we can get that more out, that another 5 to 6, 7 years out of that before it completely fails and we are into a complete reconstruction.
Okay. Because it would be, complete reconstruction is going to be a huge cost, because you pretty well have to do the base, everything again. I know the culverts are all right, but okay, so so where we are at the budget today, I think that's kind of what we're looking for, is to get the most out of what we have. And in the future, I'm sure it'll be a different look once it's due for reconstruction. But right now, this is just to make it last for to get it back into the cycle of when it's going to be done. So so right now in the budget, we have the 150 in there for an overlay, and that'll hopefully line it up back into when it's due to be replaced. I'm sure whoever's discussing that will be discussing the micro surface, because it'll be reconstruction time for the next time. I don't think they usually do 2 overlays before they go into a full reconstruction, do they, Peter?
No, through you, Mayor Martin. No, that'd be correct. Normally, it's just 1 overlay to extend the life of its full life expectancy, and then it's a reconstruction. That's correct.
All right, thank you. Okay, so what we have in there, I'm not sure what page that's on, but it's Doesn't sound like it needs any changes, but that's up to council.
Peter, the 6th line. Is the road in rough shape? Today, like, is it possible that we can defer this and possibly move right into the micro? Maybe next year or the year after?
Through you, Mayor Martin, to Councilor Flagger, we could definitely do that. And maybe in that time, we could have a presentation of the surface treatment and the ultra-thin asphalt, so council can be better advised on both of those surface treatments or pavement options.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So can we defer it till next year? I'm just thinking, because we're, I know it needs to be resurfaced, but if it's not that bad, maybe we could wait till next year and then have it done. Whereas it's like Round Lake Road, because that road is still good after.
That
3-4
number
years.
there isn't it though, like it'll
No,
be
I
a lot.
know, no, I know that, yeah.
So-
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I know this is just for the dump.
and so that is an option, it's just, we'll have to, so going into next year's budget, we'll have 150 towards it. Over the year, Peter can get a price on what it's gonna cost to switch it over to micro surface. Get a number on it, Peter, if you can, that's up to council now, if we make a motion right now that we defer that one and until next year, or whenever we can afford to do it. Because that means it'll be substantially more than $150,000, I'm sure, Peter.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, it definitely would, definitely more, a double, or if depending, we'd have to assess the road, I guess, would be the best answer to make sure the culverts and everything is in good shape, and so it's definitely going to be a lot more than 150,000, but we can come up with some numbers going for, if we do decide to defer, we can come up with some numbers on and get some pricing as well.
Okay,
Future, the one little wrinkle here would be the 6th line surface treatment supported by the OCIF funding we get from the province. So we might want to just move that funding, because I like to see that spent every year, or at least most of what we have to spend. So if I could just suggest that if we're not doing the 6th line surface treatment, we're not using the OCIF funding for that, that perhaps we could use that for the burnt dam bridge, because it's just a tiny bit less, and so that way we can show to them that we're not hoarding the money and we're actually spending it.
well, does it affect the budget at all as far as the number?
No, it just gives us flat draws from the roads reserve, which isn't a bad thing.
Do we get the OCIF every year, or is that like, okay, because next year we don't have it and we gotta come up with the money to do the 6th line and, okay.
No, that's fine.
Okay, go ahead.
The other option is you could move it to the transfer station and do the paving there. I'd have to look into, through your chair, whether it has to be done on roads or can be done on any paving, but if it could be done on the 6th line transfer station, we could do that.
What did we use on 3rd line? Did we use some of it in the 3rd line too?
No, we use the OMPF reserve. I mean, we could use it partially for the 3rd line, like use the 150 and use a mixture of the OCIF and the OMPF reserve. I don't see anything wrong with that. And that way less would be coming out of the admin reserve.
Yeah. And then it's still there if we had to pull it out for the 6th line next year or something, right?
Right.
Okay. So the key is to use that OCIF. So if the motion was that we defer the 6th line and we transfer the OCIF money over to the 3rd line. Construction. It's a whole bunch of shells to move there, and then put the money that was allocated for the 3rd line back into the admin reserve. Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. So can I ask one more question, Peter, for my own purposes? So this 6line, 150,000 was for considered maintenance. Will this road, how much more is it going to deteriorate in a year's time?
Through you, Mayor Martin, to Councillor Clement. A lot depends on the weather in the winter, I guess. I don't think it's going to deteriorate extremely bad in the next year. I would say we'd add some more potholes, but other than that, I don't think it's going to deteriorate to a terrible state within a year.
Okay, Peter, I'm fine with that then. Thank you.
Okay, so what's, go ahead.
Hi, Peter, would that be all okay if we kind of deferred that till next year? Like
Yes. Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, that's completely, yep, would let us give us some more time on our other projects as well too. So no, that's fine, and it'd be nice to get some presentations for council to explain the different materials there on the roads. So no, completely up to council's decision for sure.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Sure.
You want to make a motion that we defer the 6-line construction till next year's
Yes.
budget and use the OCIF money
Third.
for the 3rd line? Do we need all that into the motion?
That wouldn't hurt, just so the auditors would have to know. Thank you. Through you, Chair.
Transfer station.
I'll make sure, through you, Mayor, I'll make sure it all gets in there.
Do you want me to try? I can try. But I'll make a motion to defer the 6-line asphalt, what was it, 150 asphalt? And possibly put it on the 3rd line.
Funds from it onto the 3rd line.
Yeah, on the 3rd line and the transfer station if possible.
Yeah, the transfer station won't be, I would keep that separate as far as the, it'll take it all on the 3rd line.
Okay, then all on the 3rd line.
Great. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. Questions, comments?
So are we gonna put 150 in reserve then?
The 150 that was coming from CIF is gonna go into the 3rd line. And the 3rd line money was coming from
ONPF.
or the admin reserve. So it'll go back into the admin reserve for.
So the answer is yes, we're putting 150 in reserve for next year towards the 6th line. Okay, so I just didn't want to, because we're spending the actual dollars out of the fund now, which has nothing to do with reserve for next year. I just want clarity, that's all.
Yeah, so Councillor Doherty was correct. It's just a 2-step process. So yeah, the OCIF goes from the project that's being deferred, goes into the 3rd line construction. That allows us to put the $150,000, keep it in the admin reserve for next year.
So will it be identified for us, like for next year, that it's the 6th line from that reserve?
Yeah, I will have a brand new chart that shows all of the stuff approved, stuff like the motions approved in the previous year, which will outline the movements made during the 2023 budget process.
So as much as it's going back into the admin reserve, it'll be identified for the line. So, yeah. So, okay, so I have a mover and a seconder on this. Is there any more questions on it? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. So the next, we can still come back, everything's popped up, but the water capital budget. Right now. Construction master plan for George Street. Or yeah, 152. Thank you. And there's the Aqua capital maintenance program. 85,000. George Street matching requirement for the grant 1.7 pending grant. 1.7 million was the amount and grant 1.27. And then the steel roof at well 1 and 4. And the water filling station. Oh, go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor, would the aqua number not be 21,000 be less because it's 85 with the 65 in, or did I read 163 wrong here quickly?
Feature the 65. The charts look identical, but the 65 is in the sewer line, I believe. So that's the one being spread out on the sewer.
Okay, so this is just water. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
The water filling station, the amount is 230. I've seen quotes for it's under 200. From Peter actually sent
Okay.
me the quotes.
Peter?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. I did pass around some previous quotes from some contractors. And the 230 was a total including the pavement as well. So I believe we could probably remove the pavement and definitely I think we'd be under the 200 mark. But that's just an explanation there for council, but either way, we're close to the 200. Just if we want to have the pavement as well, I think the pavement I would recommend just for water spilling and be washing gravel and creating a mess. But that's just my thoughts. It's completely up to council's decision there.
Pavement will help for winter maintenance too, as far as trying to keep the ice off of there or anything that has to. Anything that comes up in the winter time, I would suggest, but so it probably is good to keep it in there.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. I didn't even think about payments.
Yeah,
Pavement.
no,
Through Mr. Mayor, where are we with respect to the water filtration? Do we have a RFP? We have a. Where are we with that, Peter?
Through you, Mayor Martin, we've reached out to the contractor that installed the latest water filling station in Peterborough, and they have passed along quite a bit of information as well. We asked Aqua to help with this project, and they were working on putting a tender out late last fall. Summer, fall. So I can follow up with Aqua to see where we're at, but I asked for some assistance from Aqua, being that they are looking after our water. So
we haven't done a tender.
no, through you, Mayor Martin, there's no tender that has gone out as of yet.
Okay. Go ahead. Did you have a question or comment? Follow up?
Is Aqua, through you, Mr. Mayor, is Aqua going to do in their report our supply chain out because we are going to get more usage if we have it? What's our prognostication with our water supply rolling out a few years? Because once we put the station in, we're in for $250,000. And you gotta turn the tap off, because I think this payback was supposed to be in 1 or 2 years, wasn't it? We're gonna pay for this out of it.
Address that through you, Mayor Martin, to Councillor Doherty. Prior to a tender going out, Aqua will indicate whether there's any concerns with respect to water supply. And certainly if they flag any concerns, we may have to revise the tender and or the plan. And we will certainly apprise council of their notification. But as of now, they're not flagging any issues for us. But we'll see what happens with that.
So if I may, and how does that dovetail into our water and sewer now being a village issue?
Where was it coming? It was coming from the general capital reserve the funds.
Are you sure that's correct?
So that's for everyone, right? Like, that's not a water, that's not a town only reserve, that's for everybody's paying for it.
That's correct.
So, and with that, it's a lot of township people that use it. That was the one thing that I've heard since we were looking at this one. Is they're excited that there would be winter water available, because right now they're scrambling in the winter time. A lot of people have moved up here to their seasonal residence and don't have water. So they rely on grocery store and things like that, so. There has been some comments that, and the other side of it for the town ward, it's, yeah. It gets rid of this one off the highway and people pay for what they're using. So that's where this all came from. The one across the road is very busy and. We've been hearing a lot about it over the years, so this was an alternative that would be more user friendly. Okay. So this part here for the, go ahead.
So will the payments from that, is that gonna show in the water sewer? Like what I pay for water and it's not, that'll be a separate account for that? What? Like the money that you're gonna receive from,
So yeah, where would that money for the collection, like from?
To ensure that would be kept in, I think, as you said, a separate account, separate from the water bills and the sewer bills. And I think it'd be nice to kind of see straightforward way how that is offsetting the capital costs. So it'd be, I agree that it'd be good to have it in a separate account.
okay,
And through you, Mayor Martin, further to that, the expectation that has been presented to staff is that there will be a payback on this unit of 5 to 7 years. So we're hoping that the funds received through selling water will pay for the unit. Right.
So that would be, the revenue stream would be kept separate in an account. And so then we would have an expense to offset that in the general ledger as well, on an individual basis then.
Yeah,
So it
so
would be completely separate account for the water. And this was last year's budget, was it not?
yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So with that, you want a motion for the, like, if everybody's okay with what's in this thing, do you need a separate motion or will that just be part of the bylaw?
No, through you, Mayor Martin, unless there's changes, when we finally adopt the budget, it'll be in here and we will accept it as part of the budget.
Great then. So, so that's it for the water capital. So the remaining items, like, last time we talked about the, operating side of things, and I don't know whether you had anything.
Yeah, I want to make a motion, we take 20 off the top for operating for roads and parks and rec. So make it 40,000, that'll go into new emergency storm fund. Use towards future storms or offsetting the cost of whatnot. Yeah, I'm just put that out there in terms of, I know we looked at TIFers and other things to do that, so.
yes,
I said, we trim a bit of the fat here and we'll start a fund and we'll, if something pops up, we'll have money to, well, exactly, at least access one, so.
okay.
Yeah, access, yeah. Okay, that's moved by Deputy Mayor Webb and seconded by Councillor Flagler. Any questions around that? All in favor? Yes, great.
Sorry, just for clarification that we want to see that as a separate reserve.
With that, that's what I was gonna ask you, number 21 on the back page of your thing today. Placement of storm cleanup fund, new reserve from storm cleanup. Is that 150?
Sorry, 21, yes, it is.
Okay,
So
so
that
we'll
can,
probably go into that.
yep, okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Great, then is there anything else that, okay, we've done a lot of work on this thing, and I think it's gonna have a whole new look. For the next budget. You know, we've spent a lot of time on it. If there's anything else that you want to drop forward, now would be the time, otherwise I'm gonna suggest that we look at a motion to go with what's here. I don't know what the wording is, Bob, but we have to refer it to our next meeting for a bylaw.
Through you, Mayor Martin, the motion can be to adopt the budget. We will then bring a bylaw forward to the next regular open session council meeting. And at that point, we will adopt the bylaw, which adopts the budget.
With all the changes that we did.
With all the changes that's outlined.
Okay. It's council's thoughts, sir.
Very much.
Councilor Kirby, go ahead.
What is the number we're approving?
3.9, is that?
But we've made corrections, we've made some changes today. Will any of them affect that line?
Through chair, they affect the reserves, but they don't affect the tax rate, so the tax rate would be staying at 3.9. And I can provide for that bylaw. I don't know if that's what Bob was thinking, so maybe I shouldn't be speaking to it, but we can provide an updated reserve projection, but I'm not sure if that dovetails into no, okay.
No.
But I can put in the report any further changes to the reserves like that were in the report for today, just so people would know that maybe it didn't impact the tax rate, but it certainly impacts our ability to pay for capital items in the future. It improves it. So it's pertinent information.
3.9 is what the number is. Is that the one that'll flash on the screen?
We can certainly make sure it does, yeah.
Well, no, but that's the one that people
Yeah.
are going to ask. What's your tax rate?
Right.
What is the increase? You know,
Yeah,
it can't be.
3.9.
I just don't know how we got to 3.9 and we eliminated the project, but that's okay. I'll do some.
Yeah. The biggest thing with this budget is the majority of it was all from reserves and past budgets. So so your summary sheet, when we get it at the end, is going to be helpful for all of us to see how this all come together. I think that's what you're saying, Jerry, and you know, it'll all show in black and white. Paper is always good for me, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's future. I think it's been an amazing job of not necessarily even just bringing down the tax rate, but looking forward to future years and making sure that money is there, as Councillor Doherty and others have pointed out. Everything in the reserves, you can look at it as it's their money one way or another. So this means we'll have more to provide for other capital works in the future without hitting the tax rate. So I think it's a great job.
Go ahead.
Follow-up question. Okay, so we had OFP, which is $1.3 million roughly. We got OCIF, which is 212. We got a RIDE grant of 13.3, and we got a CCPF, which is 100.5, which is a gas tank. And then we got ICIP, which is a resilient infrastructure grant, 100 grand. So where's that one?
Features for the ICIF money.
So just generally speaking, them all really.
Yeah, okay, so as far as the ICIP money, you'll see those in capital projects because they are for capital outlays. So if we were to go to the capital section, say for instance with Matheson, which was done last year, but the community center, that's an ICIP program. There's like George Street.
So is it not Investment Canada Infrastructure Program? The other one is just infrastructure, or are they the same one or two different ones?
They're all the same umbrella one that I was just speaking to, the ICAP ones. There's one that's called Green. That's the George. The COVID ICIP is Matheson. There's also two other ones, like every single one we have has a different sort of focus, if you will. So those are all tied to capital projects. The OCIF is specifically tied to roads and road-like construction. So that's one we have to report on every year. Hey, what did you do with it? You can have a little bit left over. But that's why we wanted to move the OCIF that was earmarked for the 6th line into another project, because we were deferring it. Just so we could say, hey, we're using this. And I have to do a report saying, yep, we used it and this is how much it cost. The OMPF, of course, is unconditional. It goes into the reserve, which will have its own reserve next year. And then we can tie exact projects to the OMPF if we so choose, or we have chosen that. I believe council has chosen that. So I think next year the supportive programs will be a bit more clear to what council is choosing here to kind of see. It's the way that things have been before. I don't think it provides as much clear link between the funding to certain capital projects. I mean, it's in there, but it's not as clear as it would be. So I think this will help. Splitting out the reserve funds, and as I said before, that would be something that, you know, I can draft something just for people to look at, so I'm not deciding anything. And you can see how, based on, you know, the municipality's best practices, what I can find from prior years, this is what I think should be in each of these sub reserves. And if council thinks it looks like what they were looking for, that's great. If there's changes, that's great as well. At least it's a starting point.
And I think that's what it is, even for this budget here. We've just cleared up a lot of things, and I think for clarity next year, all the questions that we've asked, there's still going to be questions no matter what, but it's going to be easier to see, you know, the reserves and things that we've done. It'll be easier to see where the money's at. Right now, it has been hard, you know, you're referring to the admin reserve because everything was getting dumped in there. So I think the work that we've done I think it's really going to help for the future. It'll make things a lot easier. And I would really expect that the process next year will be a lot quicker than this, because we can have things over this next few months while you're preparing the next budget. We can get a lot of this stuff cleaned up before the next presentation. So for today, it would be you know, if everybody's okay with where we're at now, a motion to refer this budget to what is it, May 1st?
Yeah.
The next regular council meeting to bring a bylaw back to there with all the changes. So. Okay, that's moved by Councillor Clement. You're for that? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, very good. Thank you, Lionel, for all the work you put into it. And thanks, Council, for all the work that you put into it. This is definitely and a lot of time on it, and I think a lot of good things are going to come out of this. Thanks, staff, for everything you did. And with that, I'll look for motion for the confirming bylaw for today's meeting. He doesn't do. That's going to do the motion for the confirming bylaw.
Sure.
Kathy will second it. And Art's gonna make a motion to adjourn. Somebody gonna second that? Deb will second it. So all in favor? Okay.